Hi Rishikesh. Hi Nikhilesh.
Hi Neil, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing? Safe at
Great,
home?
going great.
Yes. Since there are only three as of now, I think we'll let the first 10 minutes go only in people joining. Till that time we can chit chat.
ठीक है ठीक है.
Okay. So
Hello.
yeah. So Vishwa, I think your internet connection is little weak. But MIDC
Yeah.
allotment, so organization could be formed with the I'm writing down the agendas. Basically, MIDC land allotment or office space allotment or factory allotment, funds allotment. If funds allotment, then at different interest rates, lower interest rates, because what's happening is I have also approached a bank, right? There
Yes.
is the scheme CGTMS,
Yeah.
which is
But
supposed.
none of the bank are dispersing it.
None of the
If
banks
you
are
ask,
discussing it. You are correct,
yeah, they
and
are asking you for the collateral.
absolutely,
But
which is then
basically, if you go
yeah,
for a startup loan or a MSME loan, it's basically a collateral free loan.
yeah, correct. Uh,
Second, we should, as an startup, government has given us a provision that uh, in government purchase or in government tenders, with
mm,
any state government or central government, our
mm,
priority should be there. But
correct,
they are not relaxing it.
right. Without,
I have raised this question to DIPP also because I've been working with railways and defense, and
correct.
certain tenders,
Mm,
railway is very adamant that it cannot relax the financial capability and the experience criteria.
correct.
So, see, being as we are distributed, we cannot have a unified voice. So,
Correct.
we get you into an association. I think our issue can be addressed.
Absolutely. You're correct. So I'm writing down points one by one. So MIDC land allotment funds tender help with tender. If there are any points that people have, they should keep unmuting the mic and saying it. There is also the part where so recovery of funds is something that MSME protects. But if there is a compulsion, if we are a government recognized startup, the funds are bank guarantees taken by the bank, nationalized banks. I think that should be something that becomes also very.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Mm,
but see, again, the government organization are acting in like they are not taking your complete bill. They are putting you some uh, your bill in some hurdles, like you need to have this kind of approval, this kind of certificate. Don't, then only in MSME Samadhan, they says that when the bills is submitted to the concerned department,
mm.
then you can claim the bill within 45 days.
Correct.
So these government people, they will say that okay, the fund is not there, so you go to finance, and from there you bring notification like that.
Correct. So, so I can tell you one thing. I can help schedule a meeting with Aditya Thackeray. We can represent these points, but any points that we are representing, I think we need to also verify that things have changed or not, because they are also doing upgrades. But there are also things that we can, there could, for example, I was filling up this GEM government that sourcing
Yeah,
thing, and
yeah, e-market.
process is quite painful. If they have my GST number, they can pull up the entire details.
Yeah, that is GM is also means uh, one kind of critical software they have made.
Hmm,
I was also filling it once. One of my proprietorship firm has been approved, but my
hmm.
private limited company, every time it's saying that CIN service failed. I have means for
Even my
past
address
three
is
months I
failing.
have been,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Hmm.
that is another painful. Finally, I have left that thing.
Correct. Even I then gave it up. because it was my address was not passing.
No, means what means it is somewhere if there is a slight mismatch also they will means the process is not going.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that these are the things that have to be immediately fixed if you want to help the startups. But if you don't want to fix your process, it's going to be very difficult for us to even do anything about it. So we get discouraged.
And again, if you go on GM portal also, there
Mm,
are so many bids. But
mm.
in the being a government portal, they are not relaxing the startup norms.
Correct, correct, correct. uh, no, so I think we could suggest certain changes in.
And if you are going for means if you are proposing that we would have a meeting with Aditya or Subhash Desai, anybody, then we
Hmm.
can say that in this COVID-19, the worst suffered institutions are ours because
Hmm.
we were just in our foundation stage.
Correct, correct, correct. Hmm.
So we don't have fund to pay salaries.
Hmm.
We don't have fund to pay rents.
Hmm. तो
And they
उसमें
have,
उसमें एक क्या है कि instead of ask, so we need to suggest what the government should do, but
yeah,
also.
we can suggest, in
Hmm.
means, but I am telling you that
Hmm.
we can suggest that, okay, you can draft a regulation like that, that the rent should be reduced by 50%. Uh, like in Delhi, they said that any doctors or any healthcare residing in a rented premises, they have given a draft that uh, the rent would not be collected for so and so days.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like we can ask for a relaxation in GST.
Yes, GST is main the thing.
Hmm. Then again, means this government thinks they have a particular date for everything.
Hmm.
Like GST, if you file before after 20th of each month, you will have to give fine. But same should be there in terms of our payment also.
So exactly. So GST payment, the problem with it is that we need to pay the GST, and customer doesn't pay us, we are stuck. So we are facing those things even for our business, and we are paying GST out of our pocket, losing our liquidity. So that's why some bill discounting by the government,
Yeah.
nationalized banks is offered compulsory to MSME, and uh, the risk of that can only be that the builder, or let's say your client, or it could be anybody who
Hmm.
does not want to honor those terms, will not give us orders. Problem with
Hmm.
the other problem that can happen is, if we are going with a government protection, we may
Hmm.
not get the order because they may say that you guys, I need to pay your money, hence we will not
Hmm.
give you an order. So that could also be a challenge. But yeah, I think we need to suggest compliances. If we are not paid,
Yeah.
how would we pay, right? Taxation norms have to be redrafted in such a way that if GST is not paid to us, we should not be liable to pay GST.
So see, if there is a problem, if we discuss, someone can, means there will be so many suggestions, and out of those suggestions, we can get to a decision.
Correct. We
My
can get
idea is that.
representation from the ICAI, from Chartered Institute of Chartered Accountants as well, because they are the ones who are doing the taxation for us. So we can get someone to represent from their side, and to suggest what should be the updated terms for not just startups and MSME, but also for other companies, for every company.
Yeah.
So uh,
There was
Hi Neil, can you hear me?
yes, yes. Very
Okay,
there
good.
was one point I
so
wanted to raise.
Hmm.
I attended a webinar with the Startup India head, Mr. Anil Agarwal,
Okay.
and Atal Innovation Mission head, Mr. Forgot his name, Mr. Ramarajan or something like that.
Okay.
So
Okay.
they were of the view that all the startups which are registered in different respective states, None of the startups have formed an association and come to the government asking for representations of whatever they want.
Okay.
See, the problems and hurdles faced by startups are known to the founders and probably the employees who are associated with the startup.
Correct.
Majority of the hurdles are not being passed on to them. I mean, they are not able to hear what you are facing. So there was an idea which popped up during the discussion. It was, if the startup form an association and go up to Atal Innovation Mission asking to set up an incubator.
Okay.
So what the government can do is, because Atal Innovation Mission cannot give funds to any idea straight, it is routed through an incubator.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So what if the association that we are currently discussing to form, or the organization that we are discussing to form, has incubator in its MOA or AOA, whatever we make,
Okay.
so that we can reach out to Atal Innovation Mission and ask them for an incubator fund. So the fund given to this incubator is phased in such a manner that, let's say we form an association of 20 startups, and among the 20 startups together we do a due diligence and then probably choose 1 or 2 startups where we want to invest the fund.
Correct.
So this fund, I mean, whatever seed money you give, let's say we take the seed money back again to the organization and we keep. So by doing this, we are doing a reiteration of funding different startups in our own organization.
See, उसका एक problem क्या है पता है क्या? So we are all in the same boat. So we all want funds, but there are many startups in part which are part of DIPP, which are not really startups which qualify to be DIPP with IP. Having a strong intellectual property. So there would be a challenge in terms of disbursing funds. And choosing which startup to invest and not invest. If we can get a representation of a venture capitalist, and it's not that they are taking decisions on their fund, they will be taking decisions on the government fund. But yeah,
absolutely. I mean, the members of the organization can be decided mutually, right?
No, that will be a very conflict of interest. Everyone will decide, I want the funds.
Yeah, so exactly. In our group, there would be CAs. We all know that
transparency.
I mean, I have founded 5 companies to date. 3 of them were non-successful. I initially, what happens when you start a company, you're emotionally attached to it. I mean, you look at it as your own baby. So you don't want to leave your baby in middle somewhere and then make another baby.
Yeah.
So. And as you grow, and I mean, as we mature, we take a decision based on how commercially viable the business is. If the business is not commercially viable, you move on.
Correct. Absolutely.
So, I mean, I think that would come with maturity with every founder.
But whatever is subjective will be a subject of big criticism also. So I think the suggestion is perfect, that incubation form karke, funds assign karke, funds have to be dispersed. The medium of dispersing or the decision making can be kept transparent. Can be kept transparent. So that what happens is conflict of interest doesn't come into picture or whatever.
So at least what will happen is, I mean, right now, all the startups that are there in the group, I do not know how many of them are funded.
Correct.
Probably majority of them are bootstrapped. I mean, you are running your business from your own pocket.
Absolutely.
Even in today's date, where we are heavily dependent on the government, in the end, we'll make decisions based on what we have, our own resources.
Correct. Absolutely.
I mean, we can only go on and give them requests ki bhai hamara aisa karo, hamara aisa karo. But if things are not happening, you'll struggle and then you'll probably take your own decision.
Yeah.
So I have a question regarding this. Say for an example, this incubator is formed, okay? And how much percentage or a chunk of your company you're willing to give to incubator in terms of funding? Because at the end of the day, government is not going to give you this money for free, right? Because these startups are owned by you, operated by you, and the profit is also going to go to you. So at the end of the day, incubator needs some part of your business, okay? So as soon as you become the part of the incubator, or say for example, you said 20 companies, right? So we take an example of 20 companies. These 20 companies becomes the part of incubator. Not everybody is going to get the funding, okay? But
Hmm.
everybody in the initial stage itself have to pledge some kind of shares to this incubator, okay? So that's where the main conflict of interest is going to come, that who is going to receive the funding and who is not going to receive the funding. Because even if the third party comes and says, okay, this is the company who requires or is the better fit to have a funding, but rest of the other companies are going to again, struggle. So
Correct.
yes, we need to make a better alternative where
Hmm.
it's not just about 20 companies. There has to be many and many companies involved. Then only the government is going to give better fundings, because at the end of the day, this funding has to keep on coming, not just um, एक बार दिया फिर then wait for another 3 months, then एक बार
Correct.
दिया,
So
because
Aditya, you are exactly right. So I think what Nikhilesh meant was 20 was an example. It's basically all the companies who are startups under DIPP are going to be part of this incubator. That's an initiative to disperse the funds. But I don't think the funds would be something like what a venture capitalist looks to increase his value. I think these will be grants given. So उसके लिए अगर गवर्नमेंट को कुछ ये चाहिए कि if they want to give this disburses as a very low 1% loan, loan at 1%, maybe
Correct.
that could be a way to address. So ways and means of dispersing this loan can be figured out, and I think we might have enough experts that we can rope in कि ICAI का एक आदमी आना चाहिए, CAGA का एक आदमी
Correct.
प्रेजेंटेशन होना चाहिए बोर्ड पे, ऑर्गेनाइजेशन पे. ये सारी चीजें हम एक्चुअली परफेक्टली कर सकते हैं.
See,
सो
also the incubator का जो government का जो guidelines है ना, Atal Innovation Mission का, it is based on these incubators will run on no profit, no loss. Also, uh, this is just to give an assurance to the venture capitalists that this startup is the seed capital this startup has received is from Atal Innovation Mission. So you're getting a stamp, which is going to foolproof your VC funding going forward. You're not going to depend on this fund forever.
Correct.
This is just seed capital. And see, the idea here, the only motive of me starting this discussion is to stall liquidity crunch for each of us. I mean, I understand all the startups here must be at different turnovers, but it's irrespective of that, you would still have a liquidity crunch.
Correct. Absolutely. So I think we should definitely get this association that we form to look at something known. अगर वो अतुल अग्रवाल ने suggest किया है, so then that might have hold merit. अतुल अग्रवाल, correct ना?
Anil Agarwal.
So I'm so sorry.
Also during the discussion, he was telling that probably this is the right opportunity for any startup to come and make a mark. Going forward with the COVID-19 crisis that entire country is facing, they have a lot of challenges going on, and probably there was one challenge which was the deadline. I think it is finished. It was 15th of April, for which they have received close to 600 applications for different crises that each startup will solve. The major crisis that they were currently facing, I mean, I do not know if anyone here can be able to solve the challenge, but then the biggest challenge that they currently were facing was, apart from the tier 1, tier 2 city, let's say tier 3 city or a tier 4 city, there's a huge challenge for running all the e-commerce operations. Let's say the government wanted to go out and give out food and everything else to every person located in that local area. None of the startups were able to handle that. None of them. I mean, irrespective of we having so many big startups in the country, like Zomato or Swiggy, or you name the biggies, but none of them were able to handle it. So there were only 3 startups which had come forward, who were really helping the government out to carry out the hyper-local deliveries.
Okay.
So according to him, this is one of the biggest challenges which the government was facing. Okay. Along with that, there are other challenges as well which the government wants to cater on. The first was, I think, was drone surveillance.
Sorry to interrupt, Nikhilesh. We are at 12:40. We have 20 more minutes. So I would suggest that जो point है ना, वो अगर बोलोगे ना, तो
I'll write it down.
नहीं बता. So मैं क्या, I'm writing down minutes of the meeting. I'm not putting names अभी किसने क्या बोला है. but I will post this into our WhatsApp group and then for further thing. If you could tell point क्या है तो मैं फटाफट वो list down करते जाऊंगा कि अपने organization का vision mission form करने के लिए.
Or maybe he can put it into the chat window one by one, so you can directly copy paste instead of.
Maybe that could be done. I have written about 8 points. और अगर है तो
because time बच जाएगा उसमें. We'll save the time, and probably by that time we can move to the next point.
Absolutely.
So I believe there would be something, few things like जैसे land वाला अगर आपने बात किया तो that is state thing, right? So we could differentiate the point based on कि कौन सा point हमको central government में put up करना है, कौन सा point state में put up करना है, and the other points being what should be the how do we run this organization.
Correct. So running the organization, we would later on need to form a proper management group, which basically changes every 2 years or 1 year based on some kind of representation, either election, whatever process. So this would be something additional to what you are doing any which case. So I think this is something that an election based or something like that process can be done. Ideally, we should keep the control in the hands of startups and not give it to some a third party body which is government, because then वापस से same decision making and slow making process होगा. If this organization association is run by startups, there will be a better turnaround and this thing. And of course, this is this is going to be honorary. When I say honorary, that means it's not going to be paid to anybody, right?
Right.
People will be investing their time based on. There was also another thing that I wanted to suggest is that there should also be a verification process of this association to verify new startups and even existing startups who have got a DIPP certificate and who are probably gone out of business. And so recycling of the names of startups. So there was a criteria that was established by government when I had applied, where we needed an incubator's recommendation letter, and you also need to have a strong IP, so intellectual property. But later on, what happened after a few months or after I think a year down the line, I know that this one of the criteria was relaxed, or I don't know if both were relaxed. But many startups that I know or I hear which are DIPP may not really qualify to be DIPP startups. And if we are talking about such a great taxpayers' money resource to be invested into the DIPP startups, we need to also have a great amount of qualification criteria. So we could also work on the qualification and requalification criteria, and so that क्या होगा कि limited startups only will stay. So that is what one of the points that I wanted to this thing. So tomorrow, democratically, if my startup also does not qualify, it should get relegated from DIPP. As simple and as transparent as that. अगर मैं ऐसा है, तो I think that's something.
All the criterias were relaxed, as far as I know. The incubator letter or recommendation letter was not required, and neither any other kind of this thing. Only you have to say that when was the actual company formed, and if it was formed and falls under that criteria below that 7 years, you are under the DIPP. See again, companies which are registered under DIPP, not everybody needs to have an intellectual property, because not everybody is working on a product based. There are many companies which are working on service based as well. So any service based company will not have an intellectual property. Right?
You are exactly correct. But Aditya, there is an organization called MSME for protecting those companies. DIPP का purpose थोड़ा अलग है ना?
See again, MSME. See, many companies which has a turnover below 25 crore rupees, okay, they fall under MSME. Okay, so if a company is having a yearly turnover of 25 CR, so probably they are already running in a profit. Okay, because then they actually don't need to be in DIPP.
Correct.
So again, the idea, the companies which are in DIPP, their hardly turnover is 20 lakh, 40 lakh, 50 lakh, maybe below 1 CR. Most companies has a turnover below 1 CR. That is the reason, they are struggling more. That is the reason they are not able to pay their manpower or rent or fixed expenses or whatever it is.
Correct.
So at the end of the day, we need to give a suggestion or make an environment where a product based and a service based company exist together in the DIPP environment, where there are companies which are innovating different ways of service, giving different ways to the service industry as well as the product based industry. Because see, product based industry will only survive if the service based industry is also thriving. Okay.
Correct.
Not you can't just keep on making products and not expect somebody to service it, right?
Correct.
So both of the companies both of the industries needs to go parallel, hand in hand. So this would be my suggestion, that when we are keeping DIPP association in the mind, okay, so let's keep everything accounted, because that's where more conflict of interest is going to come, where people are going to disagree on this, especially people who doesn't have any intellectual property right now. And see, even if you have some kind of IP, okay, or you have some kind of product or an idea in your mind or on a paper or even in the company or a prototype or whatever it is, okay, to get an intellectual property. See, I'm a third year law student as well, okay, along with my DIPP my startup, okay. So as far as I've come to know, it takes a lot of time to actually get a certificate of intellectual property, okay. Even though you fall under DIPP, the money that you pay for intellectual property is less, okay, as compared to any other company. But see, even though they have relaxed the process, but to get actual certificate of intellectual property, it takes lots and lots of time.
You're completely right. So, Aditya, I'm not saying that you need to have a patent, in your name or anything of that sort. What I'm trying to say is, criteria for qualifying as a DIPP startup should be slightly more than someone in the washroom. Please mute your mic. So, what I'm trying to say is that I'm not saying that one needs to have a patent on their name or something of that sort. I'm just trying to say that there should be some criteria, like an incubator giving recommendation is a great criteria, because no incubator might give one recommendation based on personal relationship, but not all.
Yes.
मेरा कहने का मतलब क्या है कि DIPP is like the Ivy League of startups. It's not a MS. See, every business that starts is a MSME. उसमें तो कोई doubt ही नहीं है. And there is enough protection under MSME. And MSME में अगर protection नहीं मिल रहा है, तो we should encourage the MSME representation to represent some terms from our side well. वो कर ही सकते हैं हम लोग, क्योंकि सब लोग MSME है. But DIPP के लिए there has to be very strict qualification criteria. चलो very strict subjective रख देते हैं. There has to be some strict criteria that does not qualify कि आपने company बनाया है तो आप DIPP हो. ऐसा.
No, obviously that is true.
क्योंकि क्या होगा DIPP. So I know people who are selling garments and who are DIPP startups. And I don't know why should they be, even given representation in such an exclusive group of companies who are people are looking for taking these startups to the world forum. तो उसमें गारमेंट बनाने वाला और बेचने वाला तो जगह ही नहीं है ना उसका.
See, as far as I have come to know about how the government is functioning into this, is the main criteria that they wanted to give to any company which is starting new is relaxation in taxes, okay. As far as I have come to know, okay. So they wanted any new business that is starting, they should have a relaxation in taxation or whatever it is. That was the main criteria. So their wave of the reason that they waived off the incubator recommendation and the rest of the other things that they were asking was they wanted to encourage more and more people to start a company. Absolutely. And capture each and every segment. See, since we belong from IT and electrical and electronics and whatever it is, okay, so we feel more inclined towards where we'll have intellectual property and rest of the other things. But people in the other industries, they don't feel that, right? Because at the end of the day, business is a business.
Correct.
For government, okay, even if a government business is doing 100 crores, they don't mind it, right? Till it is functioning well. So at the end of the day, we need to ask, see, when we become an association, we need to ask government, so are there any classification that is going to happen between companies which are registered under DIPP? So we come to know exactly, okay, so these companies should go into this classification. These companies needs to go into this classification.
So great. I think their suggestion is exactly right. कि DIPP में भी classification करो.
Exactly.
हाँ, बराबर. ठीक है. I think that makes sense. So DIPP.
But Neil, Indrajit here.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So, it will, I don't think it's an right thing to tell government to classify DIP. I mean, DIPP is like anybody who wants to start a business and have an idea can get DIPP certificate. So why should we go and tell them to make a classification? And I don't think, why will they listen to us and make the classification?
I'll tell you why.
I'll tell you why. We are forming an organization.
No, so Indrajit, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you why. The word startup.
Since we are forming an organization, okay. Now the basic motto is to help startup and the new and the actual innovative idea that should get support from our group. So why don't we come up with our own criteria? Okay, let's say DIPP certificate, having DIPP certificate or number is one of the criteria. But why don't we come up with a few of our own criteria wherein we can help those criteria to analyze the startups and onboard in our membership.
Yeah, exactly. So I think what everyone is, I think what Aditya was also saying is that we should form criteria into onboarding a DIPP startup. So that's exactly what I was saying. That criteria has to be there. It should not be company form kiya to DIPP hona chahiye.
But there is one more thing to it. See, though they are giving DIPP to everyone, the tax benefit is given only to the companies where there is innovation. For example, I had applied for the tax concession, and they said, no, we don't see any innovation in your business, so there is no tax concession. So that itself is a differentiation, that with the tax concession, they are considering innovation. Though if you see the criteria for tax concession, they say if you are generating employment, that also should be eligible for the tax concession thing. But actually, they are not doing that. They are just only for the innovation part.
Okay.
So
Exactly.
Same
case.
Also is the employment generation. It is not only about the innovation.
Correct. So, Mukul ji, what I wanted to just understand is कि MSME and DIPP में differentiation आपके हिसाब से क्या है? मतलब मेरे हिसाब से differentiation DIPP का ये है कि अगर colleges है और Ivy League colleges है तो Ivy League DIPP है और MSME सारे लोग हैं. Everyone is a college, but there are only few Ivy Leagues. Is what I wanted to. So as per you. मुझे क्या लगता है if government is looking at allocating a fund for a manufacturing growth of India or for a high high explosive growth, startup और MSME में फर्क है, right?
Yeah, see, MSME, I can be 100-year-old company and still MSME.
Still MSME.
Just because my turnover is less than whatever criteria, maybe 25 crore or whatever it is.
Correct.
DIPPs, they want to promote that somebody has started the company. They will supposed to do the hand holding for say 3 years or whatever criteria they say, where that company sustains and grows and generates the employment as well as innovation depending on what the line of business is. After 3 years, it is out of DIPP thing because now it's a separate business and it will grow on. It's supposed to grow on its own.
Correct.
So it can remain in MSME forever. So MSME and the DIPP objectives are completely different.
Exactly. So now my point, to coming to the second point, is that if we are saying that any new company qualifies as a DIPP startup, प्रॉब्लम क्या हो रहा है कि वेंचर फंड्स को जो अप्रोच कर रहे हैं सब लोग अप्रोच कर रहे हैं अपने हिसाब से. एंड अगर हमको ये बोलना है कि डीआईपीपी के स्टार्टअप्स को आप अलग तरीके से अटेंशन दे दो क्योंकि ये प्री क्वालिफाइड स्टार्टअप्स है, तो इफ वी गिव अ क्राइटेरिया, लूज क्राइटेरिया कि कोई भी कंपनी फॉर्म होता है तो वो पहले 3 साल के लिए डीआईपीपी होता है, वी विल बी स्क्रूइंग अप द स्टार्टअप्स हु रियली शुड बी गिवन सम अटेंशन एंड हैंड होल्डिंग. दैट वाज माय पॉइंट. अदरवाइज क्या है कि everyone should get support for first 3 years. I am all aligned for it. The only thing is कि attention अगर वो dilute कर दिया ना उसका organization का criteria, so we won't get the right attention from venture capitalist funds.
But to me, the tax concession thing, where our government has given the tax concession, they actually fall under that criteria, and then the VCs can consider that such companies are part of innovation, others are not.
Correct.
Neil, what
Yes.
I suggest, we will onboard each and every DIPP whosoever are there in the Maharashtra, and after that we will classify them based on their categories.
Based on their categories. I think that makes
Yeah,
sense.
exactly. See,
I
as I
think that
said,
makes sense. Yeah.
the same
Onboard
thing I
everybody.
was.
We will onboard everybody
Yeah.
from the
See, as I
Maharashtra
said,
as
the
a
reason of
DIPP
me
member,
telling
and
the
after that we will
classification.
classify based on our internal procedure. We will classify based on their innovator, based on their product, based on their services.
So
Correct.
this is the reason I wanted classification, because once you become a DIPP registered company, okay, so whatever the guidelines that has been given by the government, okay, you already start following it. See, now
Correct.
coming to the innovation part, government has no classification done till now where they can exactly tell you that whether the innovation is done or not, right? So once
Because
until unless you actually go to the government and they will tell you, okay, you fall under this innovation, okay, fine, so we are going to give you concession. So you're always in this dilemma, okay, that whether you have innovated enough to get the concession or not. Because see, at the end of the day, when you start a company, especially a startup company, okay, when your turnover is 50 lakh, you don't have that much time to think. Neither you have resources, neither you have money, or neither you have enough manpower to think that whether you have innovated enough, or whatever you have, you take it and you just move forward, keep on moving forward, okay. And that's when is the actual time when you actually require more and more help from the government. So that is the reason I said about the classification. So once the government knows there is a certain classification, then there are certain companies which require more help from us, so they can focus based on that particular aspects, and they can decide whether these companies are actually innovating, and they can put forward some points also. Okay, if you achieve this and this and these points, so you'll fall under innovation. So companies will have a target on their back as well. So we need to reach these stages as well. So this way it will help companies as well as generate manpower, generate enough employment for the government. So आप वो कर पाओगे जो गवर्नमेंट का मेन एम है एट द एंड ऑफ द डे.
Correct. Absolutely. So makes sense. I think this point is well taken. इसको classification criteria देके we should move ahead. And I mean, at the max, what we could do is, there is good government support, by the way, for applying for patents. Government is making the consulting companies fee government is paying. You have to only pay the government fee. So ये चीजें are quite helpful. So we can leverage these things and refine the criteria and everything going further. So I think any more points that we have about 2 minutes, we could probably go 5 minutes above at the max. But any more points that people have that they want to add a part of the
Good afternoon. There is always a late guy who's coming. So I was
welcome.
early for the next meeting.
yeah. So I heard your points on the DIPP criteria and all. I feel it's quite positive, supporting the points which you all have spoken about.
You have spoken like a politician, Prithvi. So
could you just brush me on what
yes,
all?
Yes. So I'll just go through. I've written down 10 points. I'll just go through one by one, and we'll then conclude the meeting. First point was MIDC plot allotment for DIPP startups. Second was funds, lower interest. So now, not just COVID, but even going further, if a DIPP startup needs funds, they should be available at a lower interest rate or at a preferential terms.
And not only that, but just add one more thing into that. That whatever interest rate that is happening, that is true, but at least give a way out where DIPP people can go, or any registered DIPP company, okay, when they are going for these loans, okay, there is a process where people can actually help them. See, I'll give you an example. When I was going for the funding, okay, especially to the banks under this startup scheme and all, okay, so most of the banks outrightly rejected, okay, without even seeing the papers, without doing anything. Especially, I'll give an example of Punjab National Bank. Okay, as soon as I went there to talk to the manager, he was not even ready to share about the schemes of schemes that is given by the government. Then I went to ICICI and so and so on. At the end of the day, I got it from a bank where I had some personal connections then and then. So at the end of the day, if it is all about personal connections and rest of the other things, okay, so I don't think so government making any kind of rules or giving money on any kind of interest will not hold any water, because ground level staffs are the actual one who's going to give you pass you through.
Correct. Absolutely correct.
So we need to.
So that point, Aditya, I think can be covered under that Atal Innovation Mission ka ek incubator ka fund disbursal.
Yeah. One more suggestion can be added into this.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the second point again, continual, was MSME cannot. It should not be asked for, not MSME or DIPP startup should not be asked for a collateral based loan. Then again वो CPTMS scheme के under आ ही नहीं रहा है हम लोग का कुछ भी करके. Third is tender, help with tender. Financial and tech criteria are becoming difficult for companies like us to qualify them. Fourth is bill discounting or disbursal of amount to startups. So basically, government should provide some service in terms of bill discounting to businesses like us to protect our cash flows and to protect even our existence. If we are made healthy, then we will employ more people, right? So bill discounting of some sorts. GEM process, GEM का जो GEM process है is very painful and startup should startup norms. I mean, there are very what do you call it, process related norms and everything which are little which don't make the process simple. Let me put it this way. So GEM process needs to be resolved. Relaxation in GST. So there are some GST terms which are making us, cash flows very bad.
Right.
Where we need to pay GST first, and then whenever the company decides to pay us, they will pay us, and they will claim the credit. So GST related issues or compliances for GST need to be redrafted, and not just for us, maybe for everybody. Then we could form this incubation as part of this association, and this incubator gets the funds to disburse it on for.
So this incubator part, I don't know if you all were there for that PM Modi's video conference.
No,
many people had promised us that there will be incubators that given out us numbers, like you all can contact and they'll help you set up the incubators in that specific region. It was region wise, right? That video conference was region wise. Like Palghar was one district, this Mumbai West was one district.
Correct.
I don't know, some of them might be there in that video conference from this.
Correct.
So they had promised this incubator thing that time. They had given us numbers, but nothing happened.
So Prithvi, इसमें क्या है ना? We discussed that point too. All of us.
There was no body to chase the government out for it.
Correct. So all of us discussed this point, and we decided that we came to a conclusion that if this is left to some government body to organize and manage,
won't happen.
It is not going to happen. Hence, this organization is very critical, and this initiative should be taken by this organization or this body. So then the right representation will happen, decision making will happen like a startup way, and not by government officials or babus. So basically, वो है कि ये अटल innovation mission, either we could choose that route or we could just form an incubation part of this association, which does also the disbursal of funds in whichever right way, and there should be good representation from CAG, ICAI, and external third-party bodies which make that process transparent.
So Neil, my opinion is whatever schemes are there, I feel they are just Ponzi schemes.
Yeah.
We rather go with our own thing, and that's my personal opinion.
Absolutely.
See, one more thing I would like to add in the tender section, okay? See, as far as, because I have two companies, one falls under SME and one falls under startup, okay? Now what happens is, when you are applying, when you're applying for tenders and all, okay, as a startup company, you only see two criteria on e-procure. Okay, either open or limited. So limited is like if you're registered with that particular organization, then only you can apply for the tender. Open is for everybody. Now you don't see any criteria where, even though if the tender is of 30 lakh rupees or 40 lakh rupees, okay, you don't see any criteria where a startup can only apply. So I feel we need to give suggestions to the government, being where you start a new separate category for the startups as well. So this way, people who fall under DIPP, they're getting more promoted, and they get more work to survive. See, at the end of the day, getting funding will be only for the limited time because money gets over. Okay, so it's all about getting work. Okay, so when we talk about getting work, we can suggest government, let's start a new section where open limited is there. Do put a startup as well there. So this way, any organization in India falling under central government or state government who's wanting to give the work to the startup, okay, obviously on the merit, not just like that, but only to the startup. This way, companies which are actually coming and registering themselves under DIPP, they will also get refined. Okay, this way they will also sharpen their skills, because they will know now there is a more and more work available in the government sector. So we'll also start sharpening our ways, the way we work, and the process and everything.
Correct. Absolutely. You're absolutely correct. So I'm adding that point. Need new category for DIPP for tenders.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Superb. Continuing. So qualification criteria which were relaxed need to change the qualification criteria for DIPP. But I think that was probably the other suggestion was that you qualify everybody as startup, but have classification of startup. Correct.
So the current scenario in the Indian startup industry is only good for the technological sector.
Correct.
Okay, only the technology sector in startup is booming. Rest all the sectors are lying dormant.
Correct.
Okay, so that's why I feel apart make criteria for technological sector, but other sectors you can just get them in.
करेक्ट सो आई थिंक वही है कि डिस्कस क्या हुआ था कि सबको क्वालिफाई करने का DIPP बट क्लासिफिकेशन करने का उसमें. So then you get clarified
falls under what category, and then
whatever category tech
perfect just like MSME is classified.
Correct. So इतने सारे points मैंने note down किए हैं. I will write down these points and I will send it into our group. What another thing I can take the initiative is I can get a draft of what do you call it? MOA or draft of, let's say, a constitution created. We could collaboratively work on the draft with some what do you call it? With some track changes. And once the draft is finalized in terms of constitution, whether वो पहले association form करना है कि नहीं देख लेते हैं, and then we kind of then put a constitution and then we update the constitution. We can do that. So resolution pass करके. So basically draft of MOA and ये I'll take a first stab at it. And then we'll put it up online for collaborative, मतलब Google Sheets या
then we can suggest
Google Sheet या ये करके उसमें track mode में changes करते जाएंगे. तो constitution MOA इसका ये करते हैं, and then based on the क्या बोलते हैं criteria, also what was discussed was to form the organization. We will basically charge a very minimal fee for every startup for covering the operational cost, and we'll keep it very transparent. That account will be known, transactions will be known to everybody, and there'll be a third party this thing doing audits for that. So that remains there, and there'll be frequent 1 or 2 year, I think 1 year or 2 year terms of the organization team that happens through elections or some democratic way. Which is where people don't stay as the organizing team for lifelong. They keep on changing every day.
Perfect.
So your criteria if your criteria of DIPP is expiring, then you're automatically also out. So let me put this in the WhatsApp group I'll draft this on a ये और draft कर दूंगा, and then we'll schedule the next meeting once the draft is ready, and उसके बाद formation के वक्त ये कर देंगे. दूसरा और एक point था criteria. Just give me one point. And
regarding what?
और एक point था कि I think I lost the track of that thing.
Okay.
So let's do this. Let's start off with this, and then we'll move out from there. Sorry, और एक point था कि ये do we want to move from WhatsApp to Telegram?
I don't think so. और अपन कम हो जाएंगे.
नहीं, reason बोलता हूँ मैं. Reason बोलता हूँ मैं. 170 अभी group में है.
कितना limitation है?
मुझे वो
WhatsApp is having 256 users limitations,
and we can't take, and we can't continue with 256.
See, what you can do is you can make another group, right? See, at
or
the end
maybe
of the day,
Facebook or something perhaps.
वो lifetime हो जाएगा फिर मैंने.
Telegram I doubt many people will have.
नहीं तो क्या है, Telegram में एक ये है, there is a channel that you can make and people can subscribe.
I know.
तो वो देख सकते, क्योंकि 256 people cannot be a collaboration. तो लोग
ठीक है क्या मेरे ख्याल से because anyway if you are having more than 256 user you have to have moved to Telegram. People are doing that across.
Correct.
Okay, because there is no alternative channel as a chat messenger in India yet.
Yes.
Okay.
Or if we have some startup doing that, we will be more than happy.
We have.
Or we can send a mail to Facebook and tell them increase the participants.
No, that is they are not going to do that, because that's why they have come up with the business WhatsApp, right? So and their backend software is designed in such a way that it handles 256, something like that. Okay, it's a 64-bit machines. That's why.
Okay.
So we can move ahead with this Telegram. We can ask people to install, okay, or probably we can. What I can do, otherwise, I have that. I will create a group and make you, Neil, you as a admin, okay, and then you can pass on that information to all the DIPP users so that they can come on that platform.
Correct.
Who is the admin of this current group?
Hiram, I think.
Hiram,
so he was supposed to join, but
I'll read his message. He's delivering some food. Yeah.
So एक ये कर दे, Telegram का तो confirm कर देते हैं.
चलेगा.
This is limited to Maharashtra only, right? DIPP Maharashtra or in
Maharashtra.
Pan India. Well, I don't think Maharashtra DIPP होना
It's
चाहिए.
MH DIPP, right?
This 100% this. That's why I said कि Maharashtra startups are definitely not less than 256, but this should be an India organization. तभी इसको ये मिलेगा. I mean, point in.
अच्छा.
हाँ. The
whole.
Exactly.
Then only will have enough people to actually government to even move.
सबसे पहले अपने को अपना state government भी support करना चाहिए ना.
हाँ.
No, but what Neil is saying is if we look, because our vision is to reach to the national level with the government, central government, and definitely across states there are multiple DIPP registered directors, right? So it's better to have that vision, and जो भी आएगा उसको add करते जाएंगे. That is what we can do.
See, as far as I have come to know regarding the actions of the government, I think so central government, we should be more inclined towards central government helping us more, because that's where the changes are going to happen. Once the central government starts helping you, the state government will obviously, again will fall in the same category and will start helping you.
Correct.
So approaching central government is much more easier as compared to, because they are one body for everybody for the whole country. Okay.
Correct.
So it'll be much more easier. And plus, they are the one who's making all these schemes, so they are more aware, and the people who are actually working into these, okay, so we can get directly in touch with those people.
Correct. Absolutely. And this DIPP is also a thing started by the center. Funds are getting allocated through center. State government पे आने के बाद किसके पास पैसा है, किसके पास नहीं पैसा है, वो कुछ भी पता नहीं होगा. वो किसका कहाँ पे स्टेट्स में 30 स्टेट में जाके भीख मांगना पड़ेगा. सेंट्रल
See,
गवर्नमेंट.
इसीलिए मैंने ई प्रोक्योर पोर्टल बोला. I did not say any महाराष्ट्र का कोई महाराष्ट्र ई टेंडर वाला. I said e procure portal pay. That's where the main actual work you're going to get. Okay. And central government tenders are actually the tenders where you don't need to pay any tender fee or any EMD. Any state government tender, you'll have to pay EMD and tender fee. So better we approach central government and try to make this as a nation thing rather than making succumb to a particular place. Or
absolutely right. And ये अगर लोगों को पता चल रहा है ना पृथ्वी की there is advantage of being part of DIPP and this organization, automatic call पे join करेंगे. अभी क्या है कि लोगों को क्या कर रहे हैं, मतलब they may not have hope कि क्या होने वाला है क्या नहीं होने वाला. Last time people had taken attempts at doing something, but this time we'll really do something about it. So next meeting एक काम करते हैं, let's do this. Let's not keep it open. Next meeting next Friday.